Hello and welcome. I'm Nick
I'm Bills.
from Top Notch Sports, and today we're going to be going over the 2023 NFL mock draft. We did 32 GM content creator mock draft. We held it a few days ago, April 15th at 4 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, and here we are. It's the recap now, okay? We got to talk about what happened. Bills, first things first, man, you're the first one doing this video, so pat yourself on the back. How do you feel about your draft? How did you feel about the experience and, going into next year? Because, again, we're going to be creating a lot of content together now going forward.
Yeah, so I think it went pretty well. The board went quite a bit differently than I was almost expecting it to, but it almost worked out in my favor in some ways. So, I think the draft itself went pretty good, and yeah, I'm happy to explain my picks. So,
For sure. The Bills in general, I mean, you guys are a loaded team. You guys have been scratching the surface now for years. What's going to get you over that hump? Do you think that your draft that we'll be going to in a minute here is going to help you guys get over that hump?
definitely, especially with the trades I made, getting more offensive weapons, which we'll obviously speak on in just a bit here. And then trying to like reinforce that O line, give Josh Allen more time in the pocket. Um, just yeah, the moves I made, I think the missing pieces like could all come together after what I did. So I think
Sure.
yeah.
Now we just got to cross our fingers and hope they do this in real life now, right? Let's
Yeah.
see. It's coming up. This Thursday is the NFL draft. So we're going to try to get all these mock draft things out of the way. All right. Before we hop into anything else, I just want to talk about two. Plug in your page. We'll do it again at the end. Tell everyone about your page and what you do, and then we'll hop into the video.
Yeah, so my page on Instagram is Bills Mafia _news. You should be able to, I think, see it on the Zoom there. I will cover like any Bills news that goes on. I also just kind of do like graphics in general. I just cover most things Bills on the page. So if you're a Bills fan, interested in just keeping up to date with the Bills, what's going on, especially the draft, I will be covering all the picks. Um, then yeah, just go follow me on Instagram.
For sure. And like I said, we'll plug that in the comment section below too. So we'll pin it. So all you Bills fans that are watching this video, hopefully we got a few million. No. You guys can click on that and definitely get in and be able to see the page. Great page, does an awesome job. And again, I'm glad that we're working together. All right, now we're gonna go to the slides. So I'll meet you guys all there.
180. 180 set.
All right, here we are. We are back. Here we are. So the Buffalo Bills. We see Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. What do you think about these two?
No, I think it's great. Ever since we got Diggs, Josh has stepped up tremendously. I think they have a very good relationship as well. I know a lot of people have been, especially Bills fans, have been very skeptical of what like Diggs kind of says on social media and whatnot. But I also think that people are just looking too deep into things a lot of the time. So because people will be like, oh, he's getting traded somewhere, but he just like he continuously is like extending his contract, like he's taking like restructures and stuff that it's clear he's going to stay, but people just take these minor things on social media too far. So
Absolutely. And
yeah.
I 100% agree too. I mean, look, Stephon Diggs wants to win a damn Super Bowl, and so does Josh Allen. Josh Allen, my number one quarterback coming out of that year's draft class. You pair him up with Stephon Diggs and a few other moves that you made. Oh, I can't wait to get into this. So let's get here as soon as we can. So, all right, here's my grading scale. Okay. I graded off of 4 things. You guys received 4 total grades. We did it based off your trades, your draft, the talent that you drafted, and based on need. So one more time, trades. How good was your trade? You get one of these letter grades. Then off your draft as a whole, how was it overall as a whole? Then based off talent, did you take the top tier talent according to me and my analysts? And then last but not least, your need. Did it fill in the needs of your team? Now, before we do anything, I want to go over here to the right part here. Here's our grade scale, okay? So people are like, oh my God, you earned a 50% of a grade. Oh my God, that's an F. No, it's actually a C plus. So the top notch sports grade scale is a little bit it doesn't look good. Like people will say, oh, a 58, that's terrible. Well, that's a B minus. Okay. So again, just know that going into it that, the letter grade is what you're really looking at. But again, to see more accuracy in it, 10 of you might get B pluses, but you might get an 82 and someone else might get an 85. Therefore, you had the better all around draft. Does that make sense to you too?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now let's hop into the depth chart here. Here is the 2023 depth chart currently. What do you got to say about this? Where are some weaknesses? I mean, again, you watch this team every Sunday. What do you think about this roster right here?
Yeah, so I think the current thing is, for the most part, we run nickel defenses as we have set up here. But in a 4-3 like standpoint, coming from there, we really don't have a lot of linebacker depth. Like Terrell Bernard, obviously we drafted him in the third round last year. We have no idea how good he is because he never saw the field. Um, Otherwise, I think our defense is pretty good. Like our corners are great, our safeties are elite. Our D line is starting to step up. Like Greg Rousseau is getting better and better as the years go on. Obviously, Von Miller's a proven vet. Only issue with him is the ACL recovery. We're not 100% sure on. Ed Oliver, he hasn't necessarily performed up to the ninth overall pick, but he's been a good defensive tackle for us. And Daquan Jones has been probably one of the best signings we've had recently that no one ever talks about just because he's a defensive tackle. And then on the offensive side, wide receivers have been an issue to an extent just because we haven't had like reliability in the slot since Beasley from a few years ago. And obviously we brought him back this year, but he's older. He's not 100% as he was like before. Gabe Davis stepped up into the wide receiver 2 role, but had a bit of a drop issue. We have Dawson Knox, who's a great tight end, but we aren't necessarily throwing him the ball. And our O line's very spotty. So I think doing our best to fix that should be one of the top priorities. And then the running back position has been a big talk for the Bills, especially recently. Losing Devin Singletary, who I personally really liked. Obviously, he didn't have like super breakaway speed, but he was a very good, consistent running back. I do really love James Cook, though. On the ESPN depth chart, which is what I use just to fill this out, they did have Damian Harris, who we just signed from the Patriots, as the running back 1, but I don't think we'll start him over James Cook. I think James Cook will get the number 1 role, and we'll still use both of them quite a bit because that's what we did last year with Singletary and Cook. We tend to use multiple running backs, but I think James Cook will have that number 1 role, and he averaged like 5.7 yards per carry last year. There's no reason really not to use him. He's a great running back from what we've seen so far.
Absolutely. And like you said, you kind of summed that up perfectly. I mean, look, I was very high on James Cook coming out of last year's draft class. He's super fast. He can catch out of the backfield. He's literally the perfect running back, in my opinion, for the Buffalo Bills. You're 100% right, too, with losing Devin Singletary. I mean, again, I'm not an everyday watcher, but every time I watch that guy last season, he had some pretty dang good runs. And then you got someone else who I was a huge fan of last year, Khalil Shakir. And if he does start in that slot, which I'm praying he does, he has some of the best. Go back and watch his college tape. He has some of the best film I've watched. And I'm telling you, everyone thought, oh, you're nuts. You have him ranked so high. With Josh Allen, this is a perfect landing spot if he can get onto the football field. Again, when I rank guys, it's all based off if they have the same opportunity. If Khalil Shakir doesn't get an opportunity, yeah, this guy might not pan out. But I'll tell you something. With Diggs on one side, Davis on the other side, man, oh man, could that be special with Khalil Shakir in the slot. Overall, though, pretty solid roster. Again, let me ask you this real fast. Biggest spots to upgrade, would you say, going into it with this, going into the real draft too? Where are you really looking to upgrade real fast?
So the thing is definitely linebacker, in my opinion. Probably needs some more defensive tackle depth. As I've mentioned before to you, we have all of our like DTs, I'm pretty sure only have like 1 year left on their contract. I think there's a possibility we could look into wide receiver, but I don't necessarily see that as much of a big need as some other people. And then O-line, left guard, I have no idea right now because we've never seen Connor McGovern in our offense. And then right tackle, Spencer Brown hasn't necessarily been as great as most of us were hoping, but he is also still a young right tackle. So you never know. I wouldn't be necessarily against trying to keep developing him, but if we were able to snag a nice tackle or something, I would not be against it at all.
Absolutely. All right. So now we're going to go from this slide to the next one as soon as that loads. All right, here we go. So these are the expected backups. So again, I'll let you break this down. What are you seeing here? I mean, this shows you where the depth is. I mean, what are you thinking when you look at this?
So we tend to rotate our defensive line a lot. So I do like the depth we have on the D line with guys like Jordan Phillips and like Shaq Lawson. They do seem to be doing like pretty good when they're on the field, like when we are rotating them in. Another thing is this is only the second line, so we also have like guys like AJ Epinesa, who would go in kind of where Boogie Basham is. And if I'm gonna be honest, I think he might take over Boogie Basham's backup spot and play a lot more because he had 6.5 sacks last year as a backup. So I think they will be looking to use him more. And I think a lot of people were disappointed after I think like the first year with him because we drafted him in the second round, I believe, and he didn't really do all that much, but he's showing a lot of improvement. Then from the backup, like defensive back standpoint, I think our safeties are in a great spot. Taylor Rapp was a starter for the Rams. Now, in my opinion, he wasn't like a very necessarily good starter, but he would be a guy that I would absolutely be happy to have to fill in if one of our other starters went down. And same applies to Damar Hamlin. Obviously, now that he's been cleared to play again after the scary incident, he's also a very good guy that I am happy to have as like a backup in case one of our other safeties goes down. And then Christian Benford was an absolute steal last year in the draft. We got him in, I think, the 6th round, and he played amazing for us as a late round corner last year. So I'm excited to see him play a bit more. And then offensively, I love that we have Damian Harris now as well, Deontay Hardy, Trent Sherfield. I think they can do great things in our offense. And we got another Allen as quarterback, so I guess that's cool.
Not as good of an Allen though, we'll say that much.
Yeah.
Hey, he's not bad though, honestly. Like Kyle Allen honestly has came in and done a decent job when he has to. We've seen that multiple times. All right. That's that. That's our backups. Now let's take a look at the next slide. Here we are. The Bills GM moves. Oh, moves. I'm sorry about that. A little bit of a typo, but that's fine. We're good. All right. Estimated cap space. We got all that said. Let's talk about the trades real fast. I'll just cover these real fast and I'll go inside your head. So there's a bunch of trades that you made, and we don't even got to go over which team was what, but overall in the entire mock draft, you go and you bring in wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. You go in, you bring in the 31st overall pick, the 48th overall pick, 152, 183, 217, a 5th next year and a 7th next year. And you trade away Ed Oliver, okay? You trade away the 27th overall pick. So from what I'm seeing here, just looking at this, you traded down 4 spots, and you still got a guy that you probably really like. But we'll go over that in a second too. You traded away 59. Okay, but let's let you trade it up to 48. So again, you move down 4 spots to ultimately go up, 11 spots. So again, that sounds all right to me. You traded away 91, 205, and a 5th round next year. Ultimately, though, when I'm looking at this, you get Hopkins, which is a huge upgrade. You move down 4 spots, you move up 11 spots. To me, this looks like a win-win. And then again, we'll look at your draft. But overall, what's in your mind? And if you can discuss your little asterisks here too on what each one of these did.
Yeah, so basically I made 3 trades in this draft. So I did the Cardinals, Lions, and Chiefs. So I obviously got D-Hop from the Cardinals. So my thinking there was obviously D-Hop is likely going to be traded. I would love to get him if possible. He said he's going to take a pay cut if he goes to a new team with a new contract. And then his current contract, the Cardinals GM was willing to take the cap hit on there, so I wouldn't have to eat Hopkins' big contract. Then I also wanted to move down in the 1st round just because the guy who we'll get into later, I do think he has 1st round value, but I figured I would be able to get an extra pick and move down and still be able to grab the guy I wanted. Getting the pick 48 was huge because that allowed me to get another very quality guy who could also be very well 1st round talent. And then the other picks were just to add on just for some later like depth picks. We only came into the draft having 6 picks. I think we still had 6 after, but we also have now like 8 next year, I believe. So just adding a bit more like depth picks. We also obviously I traded away Ed Oliver. Like I mentioned, he's been a good DT for us, but hasn't lived up to the 9th overall pick. And trading him did get rid of 10 million in cap for us, almost 11 million. So that frees up a lot of space for if we did want to give like, DeAndre Hopkins like a multi-year contract even, or just like any sort of contract. It just puts us in a better situation to have that much more cap room to move around. And then, as I mentioned before, I traded down from 27. Just some of the other picks were obviously involved in the other trades to acquire guys like D Hop or like move up to pick 48, stuff like that. So that's
Yeah,
what I did for my
absolutely.
trades. Yeah.
No, it was very good. And like I said, so again, now you look at the draft pick spot here. Okay, ones that are in purple, the picks that were originally yours. You can see most of your picks were ones that you acquired. And again, for those that don't know, our mock draft kind of, our website crashed in the 5th round, or yeah, late 5th round going into the 6th. So all your draft picks, a lot of them were undetermined for those later, picks that you acquired. But here's what we got. So in the 1st round, you go out, you take linebacker Trenton Simpson. Now, Trenton Simpson, to me, he was my number 2 ranked linebacker. But now again, I mean, I believe Drew Sanders might have still been on the board, who I do like as a stand-up linebacker. But here's the thing. How do you think you're going to use Trenton Simpson? Because real fast, this guy's a guy that ran a 4.43. He's 6'2", 235. He's very versatile, probably the most versatile guy in the draft class. Use him on the edge, use him as a stand-up linebacker. You can use him as a quarterback spy. Has pretty dang good hip power. Can track down running backs, knock down some passes. He's a jack of all trades, in my opinion, right now, but a master of none. But the whole thing is you pair him up with Sean McDermott, I think this guy can be special. What do you think about Trenton Simpson, and how do you think they're going to use him if they do this?
So similar to last year, Kyer Elam was my guy basically throughout the whole year. I loved him. We ended up taking him, which is awesome. Trent Simpson is my guy this year. I think he's going to be one of the best players in the draft just because he's so versatile. When I was watching like him play and just what other people had to say about him, college used him a lot in like a lot of different positions. If we move to the NFL, he's not going to play like 3, 4, 5 different positions like constantly. He's probably going to stick to like, maybe 2 or 3. He'll only have like, just less roles. So he'll be able to get better at the roles he's consistently playing more often now. And I think since we do run a nickel, a guy that's very versatile like that is huge. Part of the reason why I didn't necessarily like Jack Campbell as much is because he's more of a middle linebacker for a traditional 4-3 defense. When we run a defense like nickel, where it's just the 2 linebackers, Trent Simpson almost reminds me of Matt Milano in a way. Obviously, Matt Milano's not necessarily as much of a pass rusher as Simpson is, but they're both very versatile linebackers and are able to do multiple things like pass coverage, stop the run. Like they can do what they need to do to make plays happen. And I very much like Trenton Simpson's versatility. So I think being able to scheme like with 2 linebackers that can blitz very well is like a huge thing. So that's why I took Trenton Simpson with my first pick.
Absolutely. And again, I think it's a really good fit for you guys specifically too. Like you said, it's a good move for you. The next pick is going to be Cody Mauch, okay? Offensive line. Now, again, we want to say offensive line here because this guy can play guard, he can play tackle. My whole thing with Cody Mauch is he's a tough guy and he fits the Bills Mafia perfectly. The whole thing about Cody Mauch is this. I said in the beginning, I think this guy can slide in at offensive guard and probably be a top 5 offensive guard in the National Football League. Offensive tackle, I still think he's ranked my 3rd offensive tackle in this year's draft class when I originally scouted him. I might do some shifting around a little bit, but that's how much I love this guy. Whether or not he's going to be a great offensive tackle, I don't know. There's a lot to be, he's not the biggest guy. I think he only has like 32-inch arms, which isn't great. He's 6'5", 302, not that bad height-wise. One of the most agile linemen I've seen. Feel like he would be a superstar guard, to be a really good offensive tackle. What's your opinion on Cody Mauch? Why'd you take him here? And did you take him knowing that, hey, if he doesn't pan out a tackle, he can be a really good guard?
Yeah, so Cody Mott, obviously being a very versatile offensive lineman, is huge for us. We have a bit of like struggle at guard position right now, and obviously the right tackle is looking a bit questionable. So having a guy who could slot into both positions and potentially be like very good at both, it would be huge for us. Because also if Connor McGovern turns out to be either really good or really bad, same with Spencer Brown, if he turns out to be really good or really bad. If both turn out to be really bad, that would suck. But being able to have a guy like Cody that could like slot into either spot and be very successful would be huge for this O line. When looking at him, it's just like we needed O line bad. Obviously, I took a linebacker in the first round. Since I had that higher second round pick, being able to snag a guy like that was huge. Um, and yeah, that's just like the fact that our O line needed like more reinforcement, and that guy like he was still there is huge for us. So I think being able to add him would be awesome, especially for Josh Allen. And like part of the thing is like our wide receivers, a lot of people like had issues with them, but when Josh doesn't have a lot of time in the pocket either, it kind of affects the wide receivers as well because they have less time to try and get open so Josh can throw to them. So yeah, I'd
Absolutely. All
say
right. So, all right, we'll sum up these three guys real fast because we're actually running out of time on this call. So,
okay.
DJ Johnson, Corey Durden, and Will Mallory. Okay, I don't really know much about these guys. I'm gonna be honest with you. Some of my guys that scouted with me did know these guys. I didn't get these guys on my scouting report. So again, these later picks are all based kind of off them. What do you think about these three, and how will they play a role in your defense? And
So yeah, so to be honest, I don't know very much about any of them either. I just know we need D-line depth, especially after trading at Oliver. Definitely needed a defensive tackle. I believe he was like a pretty big defensive tackle, which is why I drafted him. There were some other defensive tackles I was looking at, like Ojimo, who I really wanted, but they were taken a bit earlier. So I just picked these guys to be like good D-line depth, especially like I said earlier with like Vaughn's ACL recovery being questionable. I think these guys could be like some very solid, depth pieces. And then Will Mallory, we lost Tommy Sweeney in free agency, so he was like our backup tight end. Obviously, we still have I'm forgetting his name right now, but we have another tight end who's also pretty solid. Quentin Morris, that's his name. So we just need another tight end we could throw in there. He can, maybe work his way into the tight end 2 spot if he's performing well. But I just think having another, solid tight end would be huge for us.
absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, to me, you kind of hit on almost all the needs, and we'll look at that at the end. All right, so we're going to the next slide now. Here we are. This is a move that you made on paper. Here's your starting lineup here. You see that you bring in Cody Match. So real fast, I'll go over the color scheme here. In that lime green color, that means we signed a player. Connor McGovern was signed this free agency. You went out, you traded for DeAndre Hopkins in that pinkish salmon color. You also got Cody Mouch in the in the second round, and then Trenton Simpson in that first round, right? The 31st overall pick. So Jordan Phillips, we consider, right? We're up in the air with that, but we said that he might be a placeholder. That's why he's in yellow. A guy that we feel like could be good, but also you could possibly, upgrade over, next off season, or maybe you sign someone in free agency, before the season, and maybe he battles them out for the spot. So looking at this, what do you think?
I think, yeah, I would love if the Bills were able to get a draft like this, and this would be like our depth chart going into the season. Obviously, like I said, Cody Mock, it would be, we're not sure if he would start right away, obviously, but being able to slot into either that right tackle role or even the left guard role, wherever he needs to go would be big. Adding DeAndre Hopkins at wide receiver would be huge because, to be honest, I don't know how anyone's going to guard Diggs and D Hop at the same time. And then obviously Khalil Shakir, who's a bit, like we're not sure about him 100%, but I think he will be really good and given more opportunity this year. So I'd like to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, when you look at this team, real fast, me just summing up from someone that hasn't really, that don't watch them every day. Diggs and Hopkins on the outside is ridiculous. Plus, you got Gabe Davis also going to be there. Yeah, Khalil Shakir in the slot, who I told you already I'm a huge fan of. James Cook, who I'm a huge fan of. Cody Mouch, who you can use inside or outside. Like I said, you got a lot of things that you can do with him. Your cornerback room, White and Elam, right, with Teron Johnson at the slot position. Again, really good move. Gregory Rousseau and Von Miller coming off the edge. Really two nice pieces. Trenton Simpson, a guy that you can also have rush off the edge sometimes. Blitz him through the A-gaps. Do whatever the hell you want with him. He'll be nice. 4.43 speed kind of a guy, too. So fast as hell. Matt Milano, who's been a solid piece for you guys for a long time. Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, two guys that have been locking down that secondary now for years. This is a really solid lineup, starting team. And we go here now, and this is our team without it. So real fast, I'm going to flip back and forward here. So what are we seeing? So as you can see here, we're going from Trenton Simpson, who you drafted right now, is Terrell Bernard. Jordan Phillips is filling in for Ed Oliver, right? That might be, some fans might see a downgrade right there. And then honestly, another thing I forgot to mention too about your thing, you're bringing in Cody Mouch, but you still got Spencer Brown, who also could be a really nice depth piece or still start. And maybe Cody Mouch learns, or one of them move into guard. So there's a lot of versatility. But when you go back and forward and flip them back and forward, you're bringing in Hopkins over Davis. That's an upgrade. You're bringing in Trenton Simpson over Bernard. That's an upgrade. So there's a lot of upgrades going on here. What do you think ultimately about the moves that you made? And again, like you already mentioned that, but just compared to the actual roster, I feel like you did fill in a lot of the needs that you needed.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, the upgrade at linebacker, upgrade at offensive line, even if it's just like Cody ends up just being depth, even if it's just for like the first season, but having like Spencer Brown, like you said, if he were to get moved down, he'd be very solid depth tackle. Obviously, upgrading wide receivers huge. Like obviously, I like Gabriel Davis. Drop issue last year was a bit annoying at times, but having a guy like DeAndre Hopkins and then moving Gabriel Davis to like the wide receiver, like kind of four role where he could slot in on like four wide stuff like that, that'd be really huge in my opinion. So
Absolutely. So, all right. So that's that. That's those guys. That's where we see the upgrade. And here's this now. Here's your backups now. So if you want to talk a little bit about this too, I mean, like you said, here's Mallory and Durden, the two guys that you brought in. What do you think about those guys?
yeah, so Durden, obviously he as coming in as a later round rookie, he'd be like fighting in that like a defensive tackle room to get a spot, some playing opportunity. Similar thing with Mallory. He would like be kind of battling with Quentin Morris probably for that tight end two spot. So yeah, just adding like depth like that, and as I have in the bottom left there, DJ Johnson, another defensive end that I drafted. He could also slot in like in areas where like Boogie Basham is, or who knows, he might even like sometimes I know defensive linemen get moved around like defensive end or tackle. So wherever he could best fit, I think would be a good spot for him to like slot in.
Absolutely. All right. So now the moment of truth. Your final grade. Okay. Here we go. So we're going to break this down. I told you guys the 4 grades that we did. Let's go piece by piece. So first things first, your trades. We gave you a B+ in that. Okay. We feel like the trades that you made were definitely above average. You bring in Hopkins. I know you get rid of Oliver, but you trade down 4 spots. You climb up 11 spots. Overall, that seems like a B+ to us. We gave you a B+ in trades. Draft grade. Overall, from an overall point of view, we give you a B+. Again, me personally, I can only speak of myself. The other guys also, help me make these grades, but me personally, I was very high on your first 2 picks. I don't really know the other guys. I can't go down because of that, because again, I don't say, oh, I don't know him, so that's a D. I just do ungraded. I don't leave a grade. And some of the other guys knew who they were. They put a grade on those ones. And again, ultimately, you get a B+ in your overall draft grade. A- in talent. Again, me personally, I was a huge fan of your first 2 picks, Cody Mouch and Trenton Simpson, loaded with talent, for sure. And your need, B+ for need. Again, these guys are filling in a position of need for you. Okay. Trenton Simpson going in, filling it in right away. You fill in that linebacker spot, plus you fill in Cody Mouch to the offensive tackle spot. Some of the people that I was working with were like, well, why did he draft, a guy that can play? Well, again, Spencer Brown didn't live up to expectation yet. Not only that, this guy can play guard. So to me, it was a great, fit there. On top of that, GM points earned. You earn 900 GM points for this mock thing. Buy this, the entire mock draft. So hopefully that helps you going into free agency next year. Your final score is a 77, okay, which is good. Okay, again, don't think that's bad. That's very good. We talked about these before. Sometimes they look lower than they should be. 77 on the top-notch sports grade scale is very good. And last but not least, your final grade was a B+. It fell into the B+ grade scale, but the score we'll be using is at 77. 77 might look ugly, so you might want to promote the B+, right?
Yeah.
But know that 77, a lot of people are going to be below that 77. So ultimately, that's what we'll use as the, where you ultimately finish in this draft. And hope everyone enjoyed this video. So real fast now, we're going to stop this and we're going to talk to you again while I'll have you break down what you think about the grades and so on and so forth. So we'll be right back. All right, we are back. And now it's time for you to rebut your score or say, hey, we got it pretty much right. So Bills, What do you think overall, and what do you think about the team? Again, predictions if this is going forward. How far do you think it'll go?
So yeah, I'll just start by going through each of the like the grades that you gave. So starting with the trade grade, it was a B plus. I think that's fair. I think some of the trades I did make, I probably could have got a bit more value, like especially out of that Chiefs trade. It's just the Chiefs guy wasn't necessarily looking to move up, and I was more so looking to move down. Um, but I'm happy with that grade. I think that's a pretty good grade for my trades I made. And then similar thing with the draft. Obviously, the last two picks we were unable to do. But for the rest of them, like I think, like you said, you were really high on, like Simpson and Cody. So I'm also like I think they are two guys that the Bills probably would be looking at in real life, just to fill our needs. And then the other guys, I'm not 100% sure about. Like you said, me and you both don't really know a whole lot about them. But the other guys you were with said they did know some stuff about these guys, and I think they could be pretty good for depth. So I think B plus is a fair grade there as well. Talent, I'm gonna have to just disagree a little, just because Trenton Simpson's the goat. So I just have to A plus grade right there.
I hear you.
um, but yeah, I think that's a very fair grade for the picks I had. So I'm also happy with that one as well. And same thing goes for need. I think they fit the roles we needed pretty well. Um, Obviously, need can be heavily adjusted depending on how the board falls. So I think, yeah, B plus is also good there. Yeah, and then GM points, that's a pretty big number we got there. So uh, yeah, I'd say overall B plus with a final score of 77 is pretty good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the moves I was able to make through the draft and trades would be very significantly like beneficial um, to the Bills in real life, and I think it could push us to actually being able to win a Super Bowl. So
For sure. And like I said, you had the stuff to do it, and you bring in Hopkins, and you got Diggs, you got James Cook still, you bring in Trenton Simpson, you got Cody Mouch protecting, Josh Allen. Holy crap, this team might have went from a team that, continues to, lose somehow in the playoffs to a team that, hey, if this happens, this team is probably going to the Super Bowl, and they have a very good shot at winning it all. Again, like you said, though, too, like the one thing that I really heavily influenced was talent. Mouch being a really high prospect of mine and Trent Simpson being a really high prospect of mine. You got my number 2 linebacker and my number 3 offensive tackle in the first 2 rounds. I mean, that's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? So that's why the talent grade was as high as it was. And again, it could have even been higher if everyone else agreed with me. But again, some people disagree. So it is what it is. But
yeah,
ultimately, I do feel like this roster on paper, if I'm predicting your guys' season right now, I'm saying, I mean, AFC East is getting tougher, right? Especially, I mean, if
yeah,
Rodgers goes to the Jets. But let's say real life rosters, I'm not comparing you to everyone else's mock. You make these moves. The Bills make these moves in real life, and you're versus everyone else's real life rosters. But I'm going to say, there's a very good shot Rodgers goes to the Jets, which
mhm,
means that you guys might, they might steal a game from you guys, right? I mean, I think that's pretty reasonable,
yeah,
to say the least. But overall, I mean, you're upgrading in most areas for sure. You know, this team still, in my opinion, probably finishes first in the division. I mean, that's just me. Maybe 12-4. You might, 13-3. You guys went last year, right? So
yeah,
you might lose an extra game, which doesn't mean you got worse, right? You just, I
mhm,
mean, 13-3 is tough as hell to do. Maybe you go 12-4, but this time, rather than losing the playoffs, I feel like you guys are at least in the conference championship, probably going to the Super Bowl. And I'll be honest with you, my only prediction would be if you make these moves, you're in the Super Bowl. That's my take. What do you think? And then we'll sum it up.
yeah. Well, I have to agree with you there. Obviously, like you said, having a worse record this upcoming year wouldn't necessarily mean we're a worse team due to the division, like getting significantly better. Like you said, it's likely Rodgers ends up going to the Jets, and in the mock he obviously did. So, um, yeah, I think the Jets, like they already beat us once last year. We did have a bit of a rough time last year. It wasn't necessarily a very smooth path throughout the season, but I think, yeah, I think with how tough our division's getting, like I think the team, especially like after all the moves I made, If you put them in like a division like the AFC South, no disrespect to them, obviously, but they could easily be like a 15-2 team. So I think the roster itself is good. Obviously, on paper, you have all the talent, all the positions, all the guys you need to win. Just basically comes down to coaching now. Obviously, with the departure of our defensive coordinator, Sean McDermott said he'd step up into that role and he wants to be aggressive at the defense, which I personally really like. So I'm excited to see how it pans out.
Absolutely. All right, that's all from us. Plug in your page one more time, and then we'll officially say our goodbyes.
Yeah, so if any of you are Bills fans or just want to come and support me, Bills Mafia _news on Instagram, go follow me, cover all Bills news. I just do fun stuff with the Bills as well, game day posts, everything, basically. So
I don't care if you're a Dolphins or a Jets fan or a Patriots fan. You listen to me. You go follow this guy because he does really good content. That's all from us. We'll see you guys soon. Peace. We are Built Better.